After a weekend-long family gathering, I returned to my small apartment in Seattle, completely exhausted. Everything seemed normal, at least until I opened my banking app to transfer money for the electric bill. My eyes went blurry at the number on the screen, $83.52. I checked it 3 times, then again, certain it wasn't a glitch or my tired eyes playing tricks. Just 2 days ago, I had over $9,000 in that account. I felt the blood drain from my body. My heart pounded like someone was knocking from inside my chest. With shaking hands, I immediately called the bank. After a few security questions, the rep said, the transactions were made from a device previously logged in, same IP address as a personal computer. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and drove straight back to my mom's house, the same place that had just hosted our biggest family gathering of the year. I still couldn't shake the images of everyone hugging and laughing from my mind, and yet, just hours later, I stood there again in the old kitchen I grew up in, reaching for a glass of water from the cupboard, my heart still reeling from shock. "You're back already?" My sister Laura's voice floated in from the living room, casual and carefree, like nothing had happened. She sat on the couch with her legs crossed, holding a glass of red wine, not the slightest hint of concern on her face. "I just checked my account." I tried to keep my voice steady, but the tightness in my throat betrayed me. Jake, my brother-in-law, walked out from the kitchen, holding a soda can. He leaned against the fridge, looking half amused, half dismissive. "Oh, that." Jake smirked. "We needed that money more than you did, Samantha." It hit me like a slap across the face. I froze, stunned, unable to form a single word. Laura chuckled softly, shrugging like I was overreacting. "Don't be so dramatic," she said. "You've got a good job, no debt, no kids. You live alone." I turned to my mom. She was sitting in the corner, knitting, her expression as calm as ever. "Mom, did you know about this?" She sighed, not looking up, her voice gentle, like I'd just complained about the soup being too salty. "You're always so sensitive. You have more. What's wrong with helping a little?" I turned to my dad, who was glued to his phone. He mumbled without looking up, "Don't use harsh words. It's family business." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "But how did you even get into my banking info?" Laura shrugged. "I used Mom's computer and saw your account was still logged in. If you didn't log out." She said it like I was the one at fault, like what they did was perfectly justified. My hands clenched, nails digging into my palms. My heart was racing. Jake shrugged, like this was all no big deal. "It's not like we bought luxury stuff, rent, groceries, just to survive. Otherwise, we'd be starving." I looked at them, all of them. Not one apology, not one guilty look, not even a proper explanation. What did I do to deserve this? I whispered, though no one seemed to care. Laura tossed her hair back and mumbled, "You can earn it back. Don't be so dramatic." I slowly picked up my purse. No one stopped me. No one asked if I was okay. My mom only said, out of habit, "Don't forget Sunday dinner." I walked to the door, heart pounding, empty inside. But before I left, I paused at the doorway, hand on the knob, then looked back. "If you think I'm just going to let this go, wait and see what happens next." Laura giggled. "Oh, please. You're being so theatrical. Honestly, Samantha, we needed that money more than you. Don't be selfish." I didn't respond. Outside, it had started to rain, and inside me, another storm was quietly building. I drove through the rain, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The traffic light ahead was red, but my mind was spinning with every cold word I'd just heard. We needed that money more than you. No remorse, no apology. It felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I didn't want to go home yet. I needed air. So, I pulled into the parking lot near Green Lake Park, where I usually jog on Saturday mornings. I turned off the engine, sat in silence, and reopened the banking app. That number was still there, just as shameless and cold as Laura's face. I couldn't claim I was completely blindsided. I'd just hoped for something different. When I was 27, I landed a marketing manager position at a top pharmaceutical company. While I was still finding my footing in the role and adjusting to the new life, Laura called. My phone got cut off. Can you send me some money? Without a second thought, I agreed. After all, they were family, right? Then Jake came in, unemployed for nearly 6 months. Just need a couple hundred to get by until I find something, he said. I stayed silent, not knowing what to say. One year, for Haley's birthday, Laura sent me a list of suggested gifts. The least expensive option was over $200. I wanted to refuse, but then my mom called, her voice as sweet as ever. You're not getting anything for your niece. She's so excited. You're doing better than the rest of us. And just like that, I became the go-to person for their money troubles. Laura bought herself a new car, and I helped with the down payment. Jake lost his wallet, so I sent him money that same night. Mom's electric bill was past due, and I dipped into my savings to cover it. Every single time, all they said was, "You're the most stable one in the family." Not once did they ask, "How are you doing?" Never once did they stop to think that I was the one scrimping, the one skipping vacations, the one postponing purchases for myself. A few months ago, I had to turn down a vacation with my best friend because I used that money to help Jake with rent. "You're the most stable one in the family," they said, like it was a compliment. But now I see it wasn't gratitude, it was a silent expectation. It's your job. The rain continued to pour. I turned on the radio, hoping the noise would quiet the ache in my chest, but it only made me feel worse. Nothing could ease the feeling of being treated like a tool, not a daughter, not a sister, just a walking ATM. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Laura said you're upset about the money. Don't make a big deal out of it, sweetheart. We're family." Family. Why did that word feel so heavy now? I used to think that if I just kept being patient and generous, they would eventually realize it, maybe say thank you or at least ask how I was holding up. But they never did, because in their eyes, I didn't need help. And the one who doesn't need help is the one who is always expected to help everyone else. I took a deep breath and opened my notes app. I began typing, every payment I'd made, every late-night call, every time I sacrificed for them. I didn't write it down to ask for repayment, but so I'd never forget, so I'd never put myself in that position again. The rain started to lighten, and pale sunlight peeked through the grey clouds. I straightened up, hands firmly on the wheel. This time, I wasn't looking back. That night, I returned to my apartment, still shaken by Jake's words repeating in my mind, "We needed that money more than you." No apology. No remorse. Just pure, unbelievable entitlement. But what really kept me up wasn't the money, it was the complete indifference from my family. I couldn't let this slide, and I had no plans to. The next morning, I called the bank, requesting a full transaction report for the past 10 days. The report came back, 17 pages long. I printed it out, highlighting every suspicious charge in red. One particular anonymous transaction caught my attention, nearly $2,800, linked to an IP address from my mom's house. Yes, I had used a computer there before, but I never logged into my bank account and left it open. I only checked email or my calendar. Someone in that house had accessed my info, remembered my login details, and waited for the perfect moment to strike. That weekend, I went back to Mom's house, making it seem like a casual visit. The familiar smell of the roast filled the air, but the tension hung heavy. Laura sat at the head of the table, avoiding my gaze, while Jake poured lemonade as if nothing was amiss. I didn't waste time. I reviewed my transactions, I said, placing the paperwork on the table. My account was accessed from Mom's computer. I was here that day, but I didn't log into my bank. So, who took the info? There was silence. My mom didn't even look up, picking at her salad as if I'd just asked about the weather. Dad was glued to his newspaper, not even pretending to care. Only Laura spoke, her voice quiet but laced with sarcasm. "You left it logged in. It's not like we hacked anything." I stared straight at her. "So, you admit it?" Laura shrugged, her tone casual. "I just saw it open. You didn't lock it, and it's not like this is the first time you've helped." "I didn't agree to help this time," I replied sharply. Jake set his glass down, the sound sharp in the tense silence. "You're always so dramatic. This isn't stealing, it's helping each other out. It's family." No, I said, my voice steady. Helping is when someone asks, and the other person agrees. This was taking without permission. Finally, my mom looked up, her voice soft, as though she were explaining something to a child. Samantha, you live alone, have a good job, and no real responsibilities. Laura's raising a child. Jake's still trying to get on his feet. Family is about sharing. And sharing means draining my entire savings without asking. I could feel the shake in my voice now, not from anger, but from the raw sting of betrayal. My dad folded his newspaper, visibly irritated. Don't be so harsh. You've always been the strongest one in this family. Everyone knew you could handle it, so they trusted you. Trusted me? I let out a bitter laugh. Stealing my personal information and wiping out my account. That's what you call trust. Don't try to dress it up, this was nothing but taking advantage of me. Laura's hand hit the table with a thud, the first sign of frustration from her. We didn't blow the money on anything unnecessary. It was for rent, Haley's medicine, car repairs. I'm exhausted. Exhausted? I shot back, my eyes locking with each of them. What about me? What about when I worked 60-hour weeks to pay off your debt? When I cancelled my vacation just to keep Jake from getting evicted? When I ate ramen for weeks to help Mom pay her utility bills? I've been exhausted for a long time, but I never complained. I just thought I was doing the right thing. But what did I do? I enabled your selfishness. Silence filled the room, broken only by the tick of the kitchen clock. I grabbed the folder from my purse and stood up, ready to leave. Before stepping out of the room, I paused, turning to Mom. If this is how you treat the only person who never asked for anything, don't be shocked when I start taking back what I'm owed. Jake let out a mocking chuckle. What are you going to do, Samantha? Call the cops. I locked eyes with him, my expression calm but firm. Just wait and see. Without looking back, I walked out of the house I used to call home, for the first time with no guilt, only a rising sense of determination. I got home as the night crept in, the air thick with the simmering anger still brewing inside me. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and pulled out a file folder. I had kept everything, receipts, messages, transfers, email confirmations, even screenshots from years ago. Not because I was paranoid, but because I knew that one day, my quiet sacrifices would need to be documented. I started organizing everything, from the first payment I made $92.50 for Laura's phone bill 3 years ago to the largest one, $3,200 sent to Jake for an emergency. I had bank statements, email confirmations, everything. Over the course of the next 3 nights, I worked on a spreadsheet, categorizing each expense. I color-coded everything, green for medical, yellow for living expenses, and red for those with no excuse, like the $1,350 Jake spent on a gaming console last Black Friday. I remembered it well, because I had to skip a winter trip with co-workers just to make my insurance payment. On Monday morning, I went to the Financial Crimes Division downtown, bringing all the printed documents, a USB with the spreadsheet, and a completed complaint form. A young officer named Harper took my case. She flipped through each page, nodding as she read. We'll begin a preliminary investigation under financial fraud and unauthorized access to personal information. Do you have names of the individuals involved? I do, I said, handing her the list. Laura Walker, Jake Walker, Linda Harris, my mother, Robert Harris, my father. I left the precinct under a cloudy sky, but there was a spark of something inside me, not because I wanted them punished, but because I had finally stopped staying silent. 2 weeks later, on a Thursday afternoon, I was in the middle of a Zoom meeting when an unknown number called. I muted the call and stepped out onto my balcony to answer. It was Harper. Miss Samantha, we've completed the preliminary investigation. We have enough evidence to proceed. The investigative unit will be visiting the individuals' homes today. I froze, but it wasn't satisfaction that hit me, it was more like a heavy, overwhelming sense of relief. After all these years of bearing the weight in silence, someone had finally acknowledged what I'd been going through. That night, as I made dinner, my phone rang constantly, first Mom, then Laura, then Jake. I didn't pick up. The texts started flooding in. Call your mother now. What are you doing, Samantha? Did you really call the police? I ignored every single one. An hour later, I got a text from an old neighbor. There are 3 people in jackets that say Financial Crimes Unit outside Linda's house. They asked about you, too. The next day, I arrived at work early, trying to hold it together. As I stepped into the elevator, I felt a few curious stares from my coworkers. Then, my manager approached me with a calm expression. We got a call from a reporter asking to verify a financial investigation connected to your name, he said, gently placing his hand on my shoulder. We didn't confirm anything, but if you need some time, just let us know. I smiled, trying to stay composed. It's okay. I'm doing the right thing. That evening, I sat by my window, watching the lights flicker from the nearby buildings. Laura's words rang in my head, I swear this family only survives because of you. Yes, they survived because of me, but they never saw me as a person, just a source of resources. And now, that resource had finally run dry. I opened my journal and wrote one line, I am not the family bank. I am Samantha. For the first time, I saw my name written on a page, not connected to any bill or transaction, just my name, and for the first time, I felt like I had control again. The first message came Monday morning as I prepared for work. My phone screen lit up with the familiar words, call me, Mom. I didn't open it. An hour later, as I poured my coffee, her voicemail came through, Samantha, this is going too far. I know there have been misunderstandings, but you don't have to take it this far. Can you please call me back? I set the mug down, a coldness creeping over me. Her voice was the same, gentle and soothing, as though nothing had changed. Then at noon, Laura sent me a long text, my bank account is frozen. I can't pay Haley's tuition. I don't know what to do. You win, okay? Are you happy now? That final sentence sent a shiver through me, as if they were treating this like a game, as if I was the villain forcing them into a corner. But I knew the truth, I wasn't trying to win anything. I was just done being the one everyone took advantage of. The next day, Harper called with an update, Samantha, we've confirmed the amounts withdrawn and misused. Laura is under investigation for unauthorized transfers. Jake is implicated in accessing funds from an unapproved device, and your parents used part of the money for illegal mortgage payments, which might be subject to recovery. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me hurt, not because of the consequences they were facing, but because they still didn't understand how it had come to this. That night, Jake called me repeatedly. I blocked his number. Less than 10 minutes later, I received an email from an unfamiliar address, Samantha, please. I've been suspended from work. They're investigating my accounts. I can't lose everything over one mistake. Can't you say something to help me? The arrogance, the mocking tone, the laughter, it was all gone, replaced with panic, desperate and thinly veiled. But I didn't flinch. Thursday morning, I received a message from my dad. He rarely reached out to me, so even a simple line from him stopped me dead in my tracks. The bank sent a foreclosure warning. If we don't pay in 30 days, we lose the house. I read it over and over, no apology, no acknowledgement of what had happened, just a cold statement, hoping I'd come to the rescue like I always had. I didn't reply. That night, standing by my window, watching the streetlights glow outside, I thought of all the times I'd skipped lunch to send Mom money on time, all the dates I cancelled because Laura was in tears again. I hadn't just given my money, I'd given away my peace of mind. This time, I wasn't going back. That weekend, I drove toward the Edmonds shoreline, a place where Dad and I used to go fishing every summer when I was little. No one knew where I was. No one asked how I was holding up. The same people who had once relied on me, who had called me their lifeline, were now only reaching out to salvage the damage they had caused. Mid-afternoon, my phone lit up again. A message from Mom, Samantha, I'm begging you. I know I was wrong, but if we lose the house, I don't know how I'll manage. Please don't leave me. I stared at the screen for what felt like forever. The tightness in my chest wasn't guilt, it was the harsh realization that, even now, she wasn't thinking about me. She was thinking about the house, about the things. Not once had anyone stopped to ask how I was holding up. I set the phone down and stepped onto the sand, letting the ocean breeze wash over me, trying to clear the heaviness in my heart. I knew the hardest part was coming, the part where they'd call me heartless, ungrateful, even selfish. But it was also the part where I stopped being expected to bear the weight of what was never mine to carry. I gazed out at the vast ocean, the water stretching endlessly before me. For the first time in years, my mind wasn't filled with thoughts of bills, requests for money, or endless calls for help. I was thinking about myself for once and the peace I was starting to reclaim, little by little. 3 weeks later, I filed for an extended leave of absence without telling anyone. I packed everything into a rented car and drove away from Seattle on a gloomy Wednesday morning, like I was shedding the skin of a woman suffocated by impossible demands. I ended up in Boulder, Colorado, a small town I had passed through years ago during a work trip. At the time, I had only a few hours to wander downtown, sipping coffee in a quiet cafe with soft jazz playing in the background and the warm glow of yellow lights. The calm I had felt then had stayed with me, and now, it became the place I chose to start over. I rented a cozy studio apartment with a view of the mountains, white walls, big windows letting in the morning light. Within days, I bought a new desk, filled vases with fresh flowers, and for the first time in years, I didn't have to clear space for anyone else's needs. I changed my phone number, told my company I'd be working remotely indefinitely, and for the first time in what felt like forever, my energy started to come back. I slept better, ate regularly, and when I sat at my desk, my mind felt clearer than it ever had. 2 weeks later, my boss, David, called. "Samantha, I just reviewed your new strategy plan. It's brilliant. Have you considered taking over as regional coordinator for the entire West Coast?" I hesitated for just a moment. A year ago, I would have said no because I still had to worry about everyone else, about my mom, Laura, Jake. But now, as I looked out the window at the sunlight filtering through the pine trees, I answered with confidence, "I'm ready." David chuckled. "I knew you'd be the one. Congratulations, Samantha." When the call ended, I made myself a cup of tea and curled up in a knit blanket on the balcony, letting the cool breeze run through my hair. I had done it. I had broken free from the cycle where I was always giving and never asked, "How are you?" No more late-night texts, no more desperate calls, no more anxiety as I checked my bank account every morning. Now, every message I received came from people who genuinely cared, co-workers, old friends, and a few new ones I'd met through yoga classes in Boulder. No one asked for money, they just asked, "How are you?" Or "Want to grab dinner tonight?" I hadn't just found freedom, I had found myself again. One afternoon, I went back to the coffee shop from all those years ago, sitting at the same table by the window. The shop owner vaguely remembered me. "You've been here before, haven't you? Weren't you the one who asked about that jazz track I was playing?" I laughed. "That was me. And now, I live here." He smiled and nodded toward the window. "This place has a way of healing people." I nodded quietly. There was nothing more to say. That night, I wrote in my journal, "I spent so many years guarding a door for a family that never wanted to step through, only to take what was inside. Now, I've locked that door, and I'm holding the key for myself." This new life wasn't flashy. There were no celebrations, no grand gestures. But it was peaceful, and to me, that was the most valuable thing I had ever known. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if Laura might call one day, her voice shaking with regret. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going back. Not because I didn't love them, but because I had learned to love myself first. One crisp fall morning, as I watered the plants on my balcony, my phone pinged with a new email. I didn't open it right away, but after a few minutes of sipping my tea, curiosity got the better of me. I glanced at the sender's name, Michelle Harris. It took me a moment to place her. Michelle was Laura's cousin-in-law, a quiet woman I'd barely spoken to at a couple of family gatherings. She always stayed in the background, rarely speaking up. I didn't even know she had my email address. The subject line read, "Thank you, Samantha." I clicked on it, my curiosity growing. "You probably don't remember me well. I'm Michelle, Aunt Grace's daughter. Laura once asked me to babysit Haley one summer, and you drove me home after Haley's birthday party. I stayed silent for years, thinking I didn't have the right to speak up, But after learning what you did, how you stood up for yourself, how you finally drew a line, I couldn't not send this message. I sat there, frozen. Every word felt like a drop falling into a still pond, sending ripples through me. I was stuck in a similar cycle. My family always said I was luckier, so I had to give more. I worked 3 jobs, but I still had to send money home to my mom, to my brother. And every time I tried to say no, they called me selfish and ungrateful. But after hearing about what you did, how you chose yourself, it felt like someone lit a path I hadn't seen before. You showed me that saying no isn't cruel, it's self-preservation. It's protecting the most important thing, yourself. I sat quietly, my hands wrapped around a now-cold cup of tea. Outside, the wind rustled the golden maple leaves, sending a few drifting gently to the ground. But inside, something had started to stir, softly, quietly. It wasn't pride or vindication, but the simple feeling of being seen, of being understood. Michelle wasn't the first to reach out. A few weeks earlier, an old college friend had texted me after reading something I posted on my blog. "I always thought you were just really strong, like you didn't need anyone. But now I get it. You were so strong that everyone just assumed you were fine, no matter what." I read that message over and over. For years, I never asked to be heard. I stayed quiet, holding everything in. But no one had ever taught me that kindness doesn't mean letting people cross your boundaries. That night, I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and wrote a reply to Michelle. I never imagined what I did would inspire someone like that. Thank you for having the courage to share. I know that's not easy. But I want you to remember this. You're not alone, you're not selfish, and you're learning to love yourself the right way. And there's nothing wrong with that. I hit send, and for the first time, something became painfully clear. I used to think I had lost my family, but the truth was, I was redefining what family meant. Family wasn't just those who took and expected. It was people who loved without conditions, gave without expecting anything in return, and respected each other as whole, individual people. The next morning, I pulled back the curtains, and sunlight flooded the room like a quiet blessing. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. There was no weight on my chest anymore. I wasn't the same Samantha, the woman who always stepped aside, always stayed quiet, who never asked for help. Now, I was Samantha, the woman who knew when to say enough, who knew when to walk away from people who didn't value her. And the best part? I wasn't alone. There were people out there like Michelle, finding the courage to step out of the shadows. And if my journey could light even a small part of their path, then all the pain I'd endured had been worth it. On Sunday afternoon, I walked down the cobblestone path that led to the nearby park. The maple trees were changing colors, one leaf at a time, from green to gold to fiery red. A little girl rode her bike, hair flying in the wind, while her mother ran behind her, laughing, calling out, "Slow down, sweetheart." I paused for a moment, holding a paper cup of coffee, watching them like I was observing a scene from a painting. The simplicity of it, so serene, so full of life, filled me with a quiet sense of peace. That image stirred something deep within me, a feeling I hadn't realized I'd lost, a sense of lightness. For so long, I believed I had to do everything to make my family proud. I worked tirelessly, saved every penny, sacrificed vacations, and put aside small dreams, all to earn the title of good daughter or to get a simple nod of approval from my mom. But they never once stopped to ask, was I exhausted? Did I need someone to listen? They only needed me to be strong. And when I finally stopped, when I stood up and said no, they called me ungrateful. I used to fear that, to fear being branded selfish, to fear losing the family bonds I had worked so hard to hold on to. But now, with the dust settled, and the calls and the blame fading into silence, I realized something simple and painful. I hadn't lost my family. I had found myself. The Samantha I am today no longer lives to meet anyone else's expectations but her own. I started embracing the small things I had once pushed aside. I learned to make risotto, my favorite dish that I never had time for. I bought a bright red dress, the kind I used to think was too much for the office. I signed up for a Saturday pottery class, simply because shaping clay with my hands made me feel alive. I reorganized my apartment, hung a giant abstract painting in the living room not because it matched, but because it made the space truly mine. One day, I received a postcard from Emily, a former coworker who had moved to Italy. On the back, written in neat handwriting, it read, "You taught me what it means to set boundaries without guilt. Because of you, I finally found the courage to move to Rome, something I dreamed of doing since I was 20 but never dared to. Thank you, Samantha." I placed the postcard on my desk, alongside a few small things that carried great meaning: a stone I picked up on my first hike in Colorado, a jar of dried flowers, and the leather journal I was still writing in. They were all tiny pieces of me, the new Samantha, the one who no longer lived to prove anything to anyone else. I no longer waited for my family to understand. I didn't wait for Laura's apology or a message from my mom. Maybe one day, they'd look back and realize. Maybe they wouldn't. And either way, I had come to peace with that. I used to think love meant holding on tightly, but now I know, sometimes love means letting go, letting yourself and others be accountable for their own choices. When you stop trying to be so kind that you erase your own boundaries, you begin to realize the people who truly value you will never ask you to burn yourself out for them. I remember a quote I read once: "You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm." When I stopped burning myself to meet their expectations, I learned that the brightest light doesn't come from sacrifice, it comes from the peace of being true to yourself. As I walked down that leaf-strewn path, I took my time, no rush, no escape, no hurry to reach the destination. Samantha's story is a powerful reminder that you are not obligated to lose yourself just to preserve a relationship labeled family when that relationship lacks respect. When you set boundaries and choose yourself, you're not being selfish, you're living authentically. Not everyone will understand that, but the peace you find will be worth it. Because sometimes, walking away from family isn't a loss, it's the first step toward reclaiming your true self and recognizing your own worth. What do you think about Samantha's choice? Was she right to put herself before family obligations? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt, real-life stories.